need a bag, I'm cashing in 6 zeros, Devontae Smith. Who the better brother? I plead the fifth. It's the Bird Gang. We going to war. AJ put y'all to shame. 100 yards a game. This year I was already got my name to grave. Step back. You ain't trying to catch my fade. Fly. Eagles fly.
Fly, Eagles fly, the birds and the guys on the way to victory. This is the start of the ride, one finger heavy. Gotta make it tough for all five. From the city where they pop a wheelie in front of your eyes. It's game time, get on the line. Sirianni drawing the plays, Hurts throwing them dimes. Oh my, y'all thought y'all had a chance. You better stack up your teams if you're trying to win against mine.
What is up, Bird Nation? Welcome back to another episode, the last episode, unfortunately, of the 2023-2024 season for the Philadelphia Eagles. And, we thought it would be funny to follow along in the footsteps of our great Philadelphia Eagles and go MIA these last few weeks.
Last 7 weeks, let's be honest.
Yeah, let's be real. It hasn't been the best journey, but we're excited to be here with you guys. We're excited to discuss some interesting things, interesting topics, free agents, coaching changes. There's a lot to unravel. And
so right there, let's start off with Philadelphia being MIA. Really, since the bye week, the Philadelphia Eagles haven't been or weren't the same team that we saw. They entered into the bye week at 10-1, and then I feel like San Francisco just sucked the freaking soul out of Philadelphia, and then we couldn't really do much after that. The Dallas game was embarrassing, and a lot of people were jumping to the conclusion that, we've got 4 games against Seattle, New York twice, the Cardinals, and I'm like, it's not going to be a walk in the park. Just because we're playing some worse teams in the NFL doesn't mean that they're not going to give us their best. And obviously they did. And we looked lifeless after the bye week. And I think that was the biggest head scratcher for us, for Howie, for Jeffrey. Like, how do you go from 10-1 to having the probably biggest collapse and one of the biggest collapses in NFL history, but for sure one of the biggest collapse in Philadelphia Eagles history. Embarrassing, to say the least. I really don't know how else to describe it other than embarrassing.
It was like a 1 in a million chance that were to happen after the Bills game, after going 10-1, to only win 1 game after that.
Yeah.
My odds of sinking a hole-in-one in golf are a lot higher than those chances, and I'm not good at golf, people. So it was embarrassing. Like, a couple of the games, I had hope. I was tuned in, but then a couple of them, it hit halftime. I turned that off. I'm gonna be completely honest. Like, some of those games, they were just too much.
Well, I think a lot of people did. I went to Twitter. I always go to Twitter in the middle of the games, commercials, and half of Twitter had turned the game off, said they couldn't watch it anymore. I had a couple of friends message me and said that they couldn't watch it anymore. But for me, and I hate to say this because I know you were hopeful that Philadelphia was going to turn things around. I can't remember what week it was. I think it was Seattle that I officially threw in the towel on the Philadelphia Eagles in their season. And I'm glad I did, because over the course of those following 3 weeks, I mentally prepared myself for a possible first round exit. Now, I didn't know who we were going to be playing in the playoffs, and I certainly didn't expect them to lay an egg and stay in Philadelphia. I mean, what was it, 32-9 against the Buccaneers, and we just didn't show up, and so it pissed me off. I turned it off at halftime and went upstairs and spent some extra time with my wife, and not watching the Philadelphia Eagles game. But I was prepared. I knew this Philadelphia Eagles team was not going to make it far into the playoffs, and I'm glad we didn't. I mean, I was kind of wishing that we didn't go past the first round, because we would have been destroyed, and it would have been even more embarrassing to play the Lions in the second round. So, odd.
which hats off to them. Like, I mean, for those of you who know football, like well, they've gone and had more success recently than the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh yeah,
Like,
we're a Philadelphia Eagles podcast. You can't go without mentioning something about the Dallas Cowboys. In fact, I don't know. Continue with what you were going to say. I was going to find something that I thought was pretty funny that I found on Twitter sphere following the Dallas Cowboys game. I was getting ready with all of these Dallas Cowboys memes to come on here and trash Dallas for getting dominated by Green Bay and, Utah State, Jordan Love. I'm happy for him. He was playing some fantastic ball. They had that game against San Francisco, so that's a little bit of a bummer, not seeing them be able to pull that out. But let me see.
which really quickly, while you're looking for this makes me extremely grateful that we have Jake Elliott. These past two games, last night's game with the Packers losing and tonight's with the Bills,
Mm-hmm.
you had two plays that it came down to the kickers to, send it into overtime, and they fell short. So it was difficult because of course I wanted the Packers, I wanted the Bills, I don't want the Niners, I don't want the Chiefs, and so like watching it, I was like, okay, if there's one good thing I can take from this season is we have one of the league's best kickers on our team.
For sure. No doubt. So I actually did find it. Jalen Hurts, let me zip here. Jalen Hurts wasn't born the last time Dallas played in the NFC title game. That means Jalen Hurts was born, grew up, learned how to play football, went to Alabama, transferred to Oklahoma, got drafted, sat behind Carson Wentz, and got to the NFC title game all before Dallas has gotten back. So I had to throw that plug in there.
I think it's funny, and I saw this quite a few places on the Twitter sphere yesterday or today. I can't remember when it was, but there's, you get happy. Like, yes, your team losing. I guess as us for Eagles fans, we anticipated it. It wasn't going to happen. But what made it even sweeter is that our own rival went out the same way. Like, it's funny because like the NFC East, like, yes, every division, every conference, they all have their rivalries, and it's it's different, but there's no that joy, at least for me and what I see. It's not as present in any other conferences. Like the division, the NFC East, there's not as much joy that comes as seeing the Dallas Cowboys lose. I don't know.
Well, and I was kind of bummed when it came to the playoffs. I mean, obviously, I didn't think Philly was going to do anything, but if we had a semi-competent football team that was able to beat Tampa Bay, and then Dallas beat Green Bay, we play them in the next round. And there's been multiple years where there's the possibility of beating in the next round, but then something happens, whether we're eliminated or they're eliminated, to where it can't happen. But to have a third divisional rival game in the playoffs against Dallas, that's just fun. I remember, now this wasn't in the playoffs, and we talked about this in one of our earlier episodes, the 44-6 game to get into the playoffs, and then that's when we made our run to the NFC Championship game with the Arizona Cardinals. So it was just kind of unfortunate that it didn't go to where we could meet in the second round. Um, I will say for the playoffs this year, I told my brother-in-law this. He's a Chiefs fan, and Patrick Mahomes is getting on the level, if not already, of LeBron James. And what I mean by that is the constant whining for a call, and that bugs me the most. So, I obviously wanted to see Patrick Mahomes fall, and because they beat us in the Super Bowl, so that's an obvious. The Chiefs are becoming like the Patriots. You're sick of seeing them in the Super Bowl. And you also kind of wanted Josh Allen to make a deep run. He kind of deserves it. And then the Niners, let's be honest, they won the game. That's all that matters. That's what we talked about for the first half of our season is we got the W, and your record is the only thing that matters when it comes playoff time. But the Niners did not play well enough. Okay, they played well enough because they won the game. But you watched that whole game, the Packers controlled it, and they need to capitalize. Yes, their rookie kicker Carlson missed the field goal, but how sweet would it have been to see the Packers take out the Niners? Like the one thing that I want, like if the Chiefs win again, fine, it is what it is. But the one thing that I do not want to have happen, even if San Francisco makes it to the Super Bowl, which I think they will, I think we're going to see a Ravens and Niners rematch. I do not want the Niners to win the Super Bowl because one, I already have this salty like taste in my mouth. I was sick of hearing them whine all season about, oh, if we just had our quarterback, we would have beat Philadelphia. We would have been in the Super Bowl. And then if they win the Super Bowl, that's what you're going to hear for the offseason. See, I told you, Brock Purdy, if we would have had him, we would have won. Like, I just don't want to hear that. And so that's why I want San Francisco to lose. Um, I'll be happy for my father-in-law, for my aunts, for like those close to me that like the San Francisco 49ers. But dude, there wouldn't be anything sweeter to see them lose in any part of the postseason.
I'm just sick of all the praises that Brock Purdy is getting. He's a good I'll admit it, he's a good quarterback, but they're ranting on as if like he's the whole reason they're where they are. Like no, he's got like he did not play a good game yesterday, and it wasn't because of his success that they won. It was
The
the other
defense.
team's
Well,
inability
yeah.
to put points on the board. So I'm right there with you. I don't want to see them in the Super Bowl. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you this right now. If it's a Chiefs and a 49ers Super Bowl, I will not turn that game on.
Whatever. It's the
I'm
Super Bowl. You're
not.
watching.
Those are two of the teams that I do not want to see. I would love, in all honesty, if I'm to pick anyone right now, I want Detroit to go out and win it all.
Oh, dude, no doubt.
You
No
know,
doubt.
you know how cool it would be for first their college team to win the
Yeah.
national championship,
Mhm.
and then if they were to go out, and they haven't been to the playoffs in forever, so like for them to be able to go out, that would be amazing. I'm cheering for them. So I don't know. I just don't want to see the Chiefs. I don't want to see the Niners. But
It, in my opinion, we'll get back to Philadelphia. We're just kind of wrapping up the playoffs right now. But in my opinion, San Francisco had quite a bit of time off. And I think you can maybe say that they were a little rusty. Uh, After getting that game underneath their belt, I think they could handle Detroit quite well. Um, Brock Purdy definitely looked rattled, And I think you definitely have to take into consideration the magnitude of the moment for the kid, especially if you get to the Super Bowl. There's going to be all these expectations. There's going to be this pressure because 49ers are the team to beat in the NFC. So I think you got to take that into consideration. But I just want a good game. I am pulling for Detroit, obviously, but I think San Francisco will take care of business. And then, dude, it's Patrick Mahomes. I thought they were finally going to lose to Buffalo, but here we are. They're moving on to play Baltimore. Um, Baltimore's got a pretty good defense, and it's in Baltimore. But again, you're playing Patrick Mahomes, so it's quite possible we see a Niners and Chiefs, which kind of sucks because you know how women choose who they want to win based on like jersey color and stuff like that. That jersey combo is kind of stupid. Like it's like the red and
Well, and we
gold and
just
yellow.
we just had the same Super Bowl not too long ago.
Yeah, it was like 3 years ago.
The same teams. Like, I feel like that's in sports. Like, you hate seeing that. Like, you want it different each and every year. You don't want to see teams who are constantly in there. So, like,
Well, based off of the Super Bowl logo and the conspiracy, Baltimore and San Francisco's in the Super Bowl.
no, it'll be a good game. I'm glad I don't have to worry like I did last year, getting up in the middle of the night and I was in the bathroom for a half hour, an hour. Like, I'm glad I don't have to do that. Glad I can. For those of you who don't know, we're going on a vacation before the Super Bowl. Like, we're gonna be able to relax, have fun. And as hard as it is, it sucks. Philly's not there. You know what? There's always next year.
There's always next year. Yeah, like in fact, this time last year we just got done with the divisional round playing New York and getting ready to play San Francisco. Like that seems like just last week, but here we are. It was a year ago, and that's how sad it is, how quickly the NFL season goes. Here we are, super excited for Week 1, and now here we are. We're not even in the postseason. Like it goes really fast. But so I guess I'll pose with a question. Obviously, we're both wearing our Jason Kelly green jerseys. In your honest opinion, is the man done? Is he gonna retire?
I think so. I hate to say it, and I know, there's speculations. I don't know if you saw it, but with Travis's comment the other day, um, I think he hangs it up. His wife wants him there with his kids. He's done enough for the city of Philadelphia. I will say, if he is to even consider it, I think a large consideration is going to be who Philly brings in as their coordinators. But I think he hangs the cleats up. I think he's done.
Yeah, I think we've got to let him be a dad.
Let him be that guy on the sidelines when his brother scores that he takes off his shirt and
Dude, Big Yeti, bro. He looked awesome at that Bills and Chiefs game. That's the thing we're gonna miss. Just his attitude, his personality. I know there was that rumor right after the game that he announced in the locker room that that he was going to retire. This was going to be his last, and reporters ran with it. And then he came out, and I think it's possible he's buying himself some time, him and Travis, for him to be able to go out on his own terms to thank everyone in a press conference. Obviously, Travis said that he's still got some in the tank. So part of you wants him to come back. The other part of you wants him to just be a dad. And I'm excited for him. He's going to be the next mayor of Philadelphia. And I would love to move there just to, well, one, have season tickets, but to have Jason Kelsey as the mayor of my city. Like, it's just freaking awesome. There was now hopefully I can remember whether this was on Twitter or Instagram, but let me see. And I thought this was so cool and so impressive because we're going to be talking about coaching, obviously. But before offensive line coach Jeff Stoutland joined the Eagles staff, they only had 20 Pro Bowls made by O linemen in 50 years. 5-0. Since Stoutland arrived in Philadelphia, they've had 22 Pro Bowls by linemen in only 10 years. So I don't know, you think about how much the city of Philadelphia means to Jason Kelsey. I would absolutely love to see Jason Kelsey in some coaching aspect or position with Coach Stoutland. Like, to keep him in the building, that would be just super cool. I think he's going to retire. I think it's just time. Like we both said, if Philly won the Super Bowl last year, he hangs it up then. But he's going to have to go through a whole new coaching staff. Other than apparently, Nick Sirianni, it sounds like he's staying. So yeah, I think he retires, and it's there's we've talked about before. There's a bunch of Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Lane Johnson, Jason Kelsey. There's a ton of people that I've grown up watching play in a Philadelphia Eagles jersey, and Jason Kelsey is one of those icons. He's up there, obviously with a bunch of like Eagles players, but like I think basketball too with Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges and Jason Kelsey are like in the same tier as some of my favorite athletes ever. So yeah, I think he retires. It sucks.
I gotta ask you: is Jason Kelsey on your Mount Rushmore players?
Oh, no doubt. There's no doubt.
Is he the first one to be built?
Yeah, I'd probably say so. I think I'm gonna put, like, if I had to put my Mount Rushmore together of Philadelphia Eagles, which have we done this before, or did we talk about possibly doing it?
I think we did briefly talk about it, but that could have been the very first episode. I don't know. So,
anyways, if we talked about it, if it changes, our apologies. But most definitely Jason Kelsey. I think we did talk about it, but it was quarterbacks, possibly.
that could
But
have been,
anyways, Jason Kelsey's definitely on there. Brian Dawkins is definitely on there. LaShawn McCoy is my other. I really loved Brian Westbrook, but then when LaShawn McCoy came on board, a whole nother story. And stupid Chip Kelly, we won't talk about him again. Now everyone's gonna say, why don't you put some of the old schoolers on the Mount Rushmore? Well, I didn't grow up watching them, so I can't really speak for that. So I got one more, and I love Jalen Hurts. I really do. One of my favorite quarterbacks in Philadelphia Eagles history. He's past Donovan McNabb in my mind, and Donovan was what brought me to Philadelphia and, got me to cheer for them. But I'm not putting Jalen up there yet. And I think you got to put Nick Foles because he won us our first Super Bowl. Like, let's be honest. I wanted to think about defensive side of the ball back in the days of Jeremiah Trotter, which I'm very grateful that his son will be playing in a Philadelphia Eagles jersey next year, because Howie Roseman's going to draft a linebacker, because heaven forbid we need one. So yeah, who's on your Mount Rushmore? Is it the same, or are you differing on one of them?
I'm of course I'll go Jason Kelsey. He's up there. How can you not? LaShawn McCoy, I'm right there with you. Nick Foles.
Yeah.
He brought us a Super Bowl. And it's difficult because, like, yes, we watched Dawkins, but at least for me, because again, for those of you who don't know or can't tell, like, yes, I'm older, and we say at the beginning of our podcast all the time, this is my big brother, this is my little brother. I didn't watch it, I didn't come to terms of liking them and following them at the same time as you. You were more in tune to it, so I didn't hardly watch Dawkins as much, and
Dude,
so I I don't know. I
we
want to put
need
I want to put him up there, but I gotta throw in like BG or Fletch, one of the two defensive. I don't know. It's a difficult
over
question.
Dawkins though. Like I know
Solely
you didn't
based
watch
off
it.
of who I've been able to watch. If it wasn't based off that, yes, Dawkins would be there,
Dude,
110%.
he was one of the most exciting players. Like you will never find another Dawkins, and the closest thing we had to him was Malcolm Jenkins. Um, dude, what a freaking beast! Zach Ertz, you can throw in the conversation. I'm interested, as we're older, as we get through some more seasons, how much is going to change. I think mine will always stay the same in regards to Jason Kelsey and Dawkins, but well, and Nick Foles because he brought us a Super Bowl. I can see Jalen making it on there. But like, I'm not going to be honest. If Devonte Smith is here
Yep.
long term, then it's possible. Let's transition right there. Wide receivers. Devonte Smith is going to get paid. He's going to return to Philadelphia. AJ Brown. I because again, I know AJ, you're listening. You love the Bird Gang Brothers podcast, so we get it. Um, we love you. I don't want you to leave because I spent $165 on your stitched jersey, I believe. But dude, I'm worried. It doesn't show up to the Tampa Bay game. At least I don't think. I didn't see any exit interviews with him. I saw some pictures of him at a boxing match. I don't know if that was at like the same night as the Tampa Bay game, but he went MIA after his injury. And then I see rumors about, the top team to land him is the Houston Texans. And it's not going to shock me if we see breaking news on AJ Brown. And hopefully he has a good relationship with Nick Sirianni. Because if Nick Sirianni's sticking around and they don't have a good relationship, he'll demand a trade. Um, I don't know. What are your thoughts on AJ?
I feel like he stays. I don't know. Part of me, has that mindset of the dude's gonna go where the money is. I I don't want him to, and I could see a lower class team, spending the big bucks on him and him going there. But I would love to see him there.
I think Howie knows that our window's open right now, and that for us to continue to be as competitive and a contender as we are, he needs to keep both Devonte Smith and AJ Brown.
Oh,
So I wouldn't be surprised if he extended him and you created Jalen's contract to be able to make big moves like this. You have to draft smart, but that's what I see happening.
speaking of keeping individuals, why don't we jump into free agents we have going into this offseason? I think there's a lot of question on who's staying, who's going. So I created a list. Help me out if there's anyone that I'm missing. But the unrestricted free agents that we have: Sean Bradley, Fletcher Cox, Cunningham, Driscoll, Justin Evans, Brandon Graham, Julio Jones, Jason Kelsey, which We never know.
Yeah.
Shaquille Leonard, Brandon Mann.
Which Shaquille Leonard, I didn't even see him on the field
Uh,
against Tampa Bay.
I didn't see him against anyone, but I didn't say that. Um, Marcus Mariota, Nicholas Morrow, Albert O, Suo Peta, Rashad Penny,
Oh, that's
Boston,
going to be a huge loss.
Boston Scott, DeAndre Swift, Quez Watkins. So
Yeah.
it's a big list.
So, I mean, I've got the same list. It's in a different order. And we can go every other, but Brandon Graham, I think, he said this next year will be his farewell tour. And he'll come back for the bare minimum. How he's going to pay him. He drafted him. He wants him to finish. Fletcher Cox. That's more up in the air. I don't know. What are your thoughts on Fletcher?
First off, I got to give credit to the dude. I don't know if you saw his exit interview and talking with the media
With
and
Jeff McClain.
how he went off on Jeff and McClain. Like, if he goes out and those were his last words, that'll be amazing.
Beautiful.
That'll be
Get out
great.
of my face, bro. You're a clown, bro.
You're a clown. So
That wasn't the first time, though, that he's had words or there's been some negative vibes in the air with Jeff McClain. And I came to find out, like, I don't trust much of Jeff McClain's reporting after this season. And that's probably why Fletcher wasn't happy with him, because he was fueling the fire in the locker room to some extent.
I don't trust a
So,
whole lot of anyone when it comes to the media in reporting what they report. Like,
yeah.
unless I don't
John Clark is pretty good. I like John.
unless I get a notification from
Adam
Shefty,
Shefty.
I don't believe it. Like, until it's come out, that's when I'll take it. But no, I hope the vets, that we have, I hope they retire with Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Not necessarily this season, but like, you've got a
No, I don't
few
want to see him
seasons
go at
left.
all.
Like, I don't want any of them to go to another team and play for like 2 seasons and then hang it up.
Well, the worst one, I mean, it broke my heart when we traded Brian Dawkins to Denver, and he finished his career out in Denver. It didn't feel right.
That was
David
the,
Akers.
that was the same with Malcolm Jenkins too.
Oh
It
yeah, because
was
he
the
traded him to the Saints.
year after that they won.
Yeah,
He went to the Saints, then hung it up there. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying like he. I mean, when you say Malcolm, like of course, growing up, like that's who I watched. With Philadelphia. So I don't know. I hope those four stay. Well, I don't even have to say four because Jason's not going anywhere. He'll either retire or stay with us and then retire. But I hope, like you said, I hope Brandon takes the bare minimum, takes the smallest, and just comes back for one last year. I know Lane Johnson. I'm not worried about him by any means. He's got a few years left, and so I think
you're going to have to draft his replacement in probably 2, is my best guess.
yeah, in the next, year or two.
Yeah.
So it really is just Fletch. I couldn't tell you what I think because that's up in the air for me.
Well, he was close to leaving last year, and then
Yeah.
they brought him back. So he either decides that he wants to retire an Eagle, or he again comes back on the bare minimum. So next on my list, and we just do 2 at a time. DeAndre Swift. I hope to all that is holy that we resign DeAndre Swift, because he had a bad season. Like, if we're talking about utilization in the offense and the scheme, he had a bad season, but he still was over 1,000 yards. So if you use him appropriately, I think it's well worth the money to sign him, because we all know how he's not going to draft a running back. We all hope for Bijan.
Look where the Lions are at right now.
I know, and you picked up Gibbs.
They drafted Gibbs, and they're playing in the championship game.
Yeah.
Not saying he's the huge reason, but like,
no, he does pretty good.
Go out and get a running back.
Yeah. Next one I've got is Quez Watkins. I think Quez is done. I think his time in Philadelphia, his trial period, is over. This upcoming draft is very deep in wide receiver talent. So I can definitely see us drafting a wide receiver. I think Alameda Zacchaeus has proved his worth as wide receiver 3. So I see him transitioning to wide receiver 3 and drafting a wide receiver and kind of building him up. But we've got some pretty good draft picks. We've got 22, and then I think it's in the 50 range, but it's like 52 and then 56. So we've got some pretty good draft picks. Who are the next two on yours?
You know, I'm gonna stick in the wide receiver with this next one. He was old and he's gonna retire, but I loved Julio Jones. Playing. He had his breakout game and scored 2 touchdowns not too long ago.
Oh yeah,
Um, so
that was
that,
against the Cardinals. That was
yeah.
against the Cardinals.
So he'll go. I don't expect him staying. I honestly think he'll hang up the cleats. I don't think he goes anywhere else.
Yeah,
Um, and then I'm gonna go with Jack Driscoll. I think
staying.
I think he stays.
Oh yeah, no, he's a great
He's
depth piece at right
yes.
tackle. Especially if you have Tyler Steen now that he's in his second year, play right tackle, and and then you bring in or you have Driscoll back up.
Who? Let me ask you this question now: if Jason Kelsey goes, who's gonna be snapping the ball?
Cam Jurgens.
You don't think they'll go out and draft one?
There is a possibility, but I think that's why they drafted Tyler Steen, because then Jurgens could transition to center and he can, go in at right tackle. I think that's what happens. I don't think they use a draft pick on a center. That's just me.
Now the next one I kind of want to pose to you. Um, we all know how important it is to have backup quarterbacks in this league. Anything could happen. Gratefully, Jalen was, well, we'll see in this offseason what really comes out and what he was dealing with. But, who do you think they sign someone who's, been in the league? Do you think they retain Mariota? Like, where do you see Philly going as a backup?
I could see them keeping Mariota. I think there was that report came out that he almost quit. Philadelphia gave him a call, and then here he was possibly having to go in for Jalen for his injuries. So I wouldn't be surprised either way. It's 50-50 with him, whether he comes back or whether he hangs it up. But I would probably go if he comes back because how he values backup quarterbacks. We'll go through it quick, like just a few more. We won't go too in depth. We're coming up short on time, but I really wanted to get to coaches, and then I think we'll conclude this episode. We're definitely drafting a linebacker, whether that's Jeremiah Trotter. I think his name is Edrin Cooper out of Texas A&M. I got to brush up before the draft, but there's some decent linebackers. So what I see happening is, in my opinion, I wouldn't be surprised if Zach Cunningham came back or Shaq Leonard, one of them. But I'd lean more towards Zach Cunningham, and then you draft one, you have Nakobe Dean, or you go out and get one in free agency. Like that's kind of what I see happening because you do have to focus on the linebackers.
I, yes, Shaquille's a big name. There's not much left in that tank, I feel. And I agree with you on that one as well. And prioritizing keeping Cunningham, he's younger. I just think there's more energy there. So
But I do agree. But what, like, I underestimated the importance and the power of solid coaching. And this year we saw with Sean Desai and then the switch over to Matt Patricia how hard it was defensively on the team members. I mean, you heard Darius Slay in an interview comparing it to like a divorce and having to deal with two wives, two personalities. He was like, "That's no knock on females," but he said it was very tough to transition. And then he came out and he gave his sponsor, if you will, for Denard Wilson, who was the DB coach last year, let go and is now in Baltimore and is now a consideration for defensive coordinator back in Philadelphia. So, um, let's see. So the linebacker is definitely questionable. I think Boston Scott stays. He's one of those players where just he's never going to leave Philadelphia. They'll pay him bare minimum, um, but he excels in Philadelphia, and I don't think he would anywhere else. Um, and then Rashad Penny, for his freaking sake, I want him off the team because I want him to be able to return to football. I have no idea what their thought process was with Rashad Penny all year. He was active twice. So yeah, I don't know. So yeah, there's some of those. Bradley Roby, I think, will be gone. He won't be back. And the other thing is questionable is do you let Maddox go, Avante Maddox, because of like injury? So you may have to draft a safety. There's that safety out of Miami, Kitchens, because now you got to worry about Sydney. Why am I blanking?
Sidney Brown.
Sydney Brown. I was going to say Sidney Jones. You got to worry about safety to begin the season. But let's go about 8 more minutes and then we'll cut it off there. I know it's getting long, but I really wanted to hit coaches, and this being our final one, we figured it'd be long, so we apologize for that. But let's see.
All praises to all that is holy. I am so glad that the defensive coaches. I mean, okay, yes, we already know it's official with Sean Desai. There are lots of reports of Patricia. It's not come out officially, but it's gonna happen. Um, I'm glad they're getting out of there. I mean, yes, struggles in offense there were a lot, but defense, I think that was the biggest thing that was frustrating to me this year. Was watching the defense, watching coverage, watching quarterbacks drop it to their wide receivers and their tight ends right in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
You know, I
The
I'm
defense,
happy.
the defense was atrocious. So I'm happy. Sean Desai is gone. Horrible hiring on Nick Sirianni's part. Uh, Matt Patricia didn't plead his case, so I definitely believe that he will be fired as well. Some of the defensive candidates, if you will, obviously Denard Wilson that we already talked about previously with Philadelphia. But I said this before the bye. Wink Martindale was not happy with Brian Daboll in New York. And I saw a report that Philadelphia is one of the teams that's reached out to Wink as a possible DC candidate. And the one thing that I'm looking at with these candidates is, do they have a good chance at being snatched up the next year or two if they do really well for a head coaching position? So that's one thing you got to take into consideration. I would love Wink, in my opinion, with the amount of blitzing that he does. It would also give good practice to Jalen in practice, because we saw that he like deer in the headlights when they blitzed, and then he just ran to the right side of the field, checked it down, or threw it out of bounds.
He's like, you as a younger kid in school, you're taking a test and you're, looking at your the student next to you, looking what they got, and then the teacher looks at you and you hit them with the like you don't you don't know what to do, and that's like what I feel that this entire second half of the season was. It was oh, what's this? What's this? Oh,
Yeah.
and we saw reports of it. He was calling audibles for the plays that were going through that Brian wanted him to run.
Well, he was almost doing it like in spite of Brian Johnson. Like he did not agree with Brian Johnson, and so he just did whatever. And I think that was hard for the team because like Dallas Goddard can't call an audible, AJ Brown can't call one, and it always has to be Jalen. And so here you've got the team on one page of Brian Johnson or Nick Sirianni. We have no idea. And then you've got Jalen who's doing his own thing. Like it didn't work out. That relationship is like, I don't know. You feel bad because they were so close, but I think this season definitely hurt that relationship. Um, so yeah, they're intrigued by Denard Wilson. There's definitely going to be a new DC. We're just kind of waiting on Brian Johnson to see if he gets a head coaching job. If not, um, I can see him being demoted and back to quarterbacks coach. Maybe that's a big if. And then they've already reached out to Frank Reich as like a consultant. Obviously, we know Nick Sirianni and Frank Reich have a good relationship, but that's an interesting one too because I'd be safe with Frank Reich because he's not going to be pulled for another head coaching job after he's been fired for two of the last teams that he's coached for. But at the same time, do you like he's done so bad? Do you want him as the offensive coordinator in Philadelphia? The last time we knew him, he brought us a Super Bowl with Carson. So I don't know. What are some of the? I wanted Mike Vrabel as head coach. I didn't want Nick Sirianni to come back. Now, maybe it wasn't him and it was the coordinators, but Mike Vrabel is who I kind of wanted. I wanted Jim Harbaugh, but I've come to learn that our front office wants all the control and makes a lot of the decisions. And Jim Harbaugh is not a yes man type of coach. So, yeah, any other like coaching news that's come out lately?
Not that I've seen. To be completely honest, I just want someone that can come in here and do the job and not clog the toilet. All we hear are all these like, yeah, all these wonderful quotes from Jalen and all this like, oh yeah, new week, new us, whatever.
Not
Like,
playing to the standard. Like
yeah,
I was sick of that.
I'm so sick of those quotes and those types of things. Like, yeah, for the first little bit when with their struggles, it was okay, but like the same excuse over and over and over again.
But
Like,
that's Jalen. He's not going to change. You're going to hear that next season.
well, let's hope he can back it up with wins. Because I was sick of hearing it. Like, it clearly wasn't working. Your plunger wasn't working to unclog your toilet, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, the last coaching thing, and then we'll close it. It now irritates me that we let Jesse, I think it's Jesse Minter, defensive coordinator for Michigan, walk out the door because we interviewed him, and then he goes on to have the number one defense in college football and then win a national championship. I sure hope that he's a candidate and that he gets the opportunity with Philadelphia. So Wink, Jesse, and then Denard Wilson. I'd love to see any three of those. But that was my last, I guess, coaching. We appreciate everyone who has tuned in to, and AJ Brown. we thank you so much for watching our show. We promise to be better, to improve, come back next season, and we're excited because we've got we've got four brothers in the family, and next season we're gonna include them. We're gonna introduce them to the Bird Gang Brothers podcast, and they're hilarious. They're fun. So this is something we're looking forward to. And Tyler, any final thoughts?
No, just piggybacking off what you said. We're grateful to those of you who tuned in and listened to our nonsense. We're open to all feedback, anything to be better for you guys.
We're beginners. We're in
Yes.
preschool.
We're trying to do what we can, but no, again, just thanks to everyone for everything. It's been a blast for me. I know that for sure.
Yeah, no, I love talking Philadelphia Eagles, and it's fun to just post game talk to you, get your thoughts. Sometimes we talk throughout the game, but it's just fun. So we'll definitely look forward to season 2 with with better outcomes, hopefully. So thanks, guys.